that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
People went to that island, but fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Epstein's list, it's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing?
Oh, I saw you.
Give out the list.
I saw you make news this morning about that. I got to get to that.
Yeah.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list?
Know why AG Garland and the Justice Department are so quiet on this tonight. You know, they're out there labeling parents domestic terrorists, yet they're saying nothing about this. And these documents were so slow to come out. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar business in this country, and Jeffrey Epstein is dead, and Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for 20 years where she belongs. And if people in that report are still fighting to keep their names private, Sean, they have no legal basis to do so unless they're a child, a victim, or a cooperating defendant by some chance against some potential case against Ghislaine Maxwell.
Maybe releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay.
By the 9/11 files.
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would
I
you,
did. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you know, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because it's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
It is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
But we
Release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Well, that was then. Apparently, times have changed, folks. And yeah, so I'm sure the biggest story this week was Trump announcing that there will be no more investigations of Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, he was not an international child sex trafficker, even though he was arrested for being one. There is no client list, even though Pam Bondi said she had it on her desk. He didn't kill himself, even though the video that they released to prove he killed himself, turns out it was edited and they lied about it. No prominent or powerful people implicated, even though dozens of them flew on his plane to his pedophile island. The whole issue doesn't matter. So we should just move on, never talk about it again. I'm glad that's all settled. Hat tip to Matt Walsh for that comment on his X page, and also to Garland Nixon for the title of the stream. It really is continuity of agenda. It's this, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, folks. But man, this was the week MAGA collapsed, and the Epstein cover-up was the straw that broke the camel's back. We'll talk about that all in a moment, but first, we have another news story I want to get to, and that is, because we're going to be talking about a lot of deep state stuff tonight, David Gergen has passed away, and if you don't know who David Gergen was, he was an advisor to several U.S. presidents, including Gerald Ford and Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton. A bipartisan presidential advisor. How does that work? Who knows? But Gergen was an elite. And for those who, I'm sure everyone here knows about Alex Jones, but you might not be familiar with his older material. And one of the biggest breakaway pieces of journalism Alex Jones did that really put him on the map was when he broke into and filmed this place called the Bohemian Grove, where the elites go every year to engage in satanic rituals, including, people like presidents that David Gergen advised. And it was a big cover-up, and of course, but Alex Jones got this whole thing. He got it all on film, got a video of their ritual called the Cremation of Care. And in part of that documentary video he put out, he actually cornered David Gergen for a street interview. And Gergen's response was just absolutely incriminating. So let's just take a little trip down memory lane. Or if you haven't seen this before, this is an amazing piece of American journalism. This was Alex Jones, a much younger Alex Jones. This is back in, I think the early 1990s, maybe mid 1990s. Let's take a watch.
One last question. I read a Washington Times article many years ago where you had a comment about the organization, and then now it's been in the Wall Street Journal. It's been in a lot of different newspapers, and that's the Bohemian Grove. And back in, 1996, when you joined as a Clinton advisor, the Republicans were criticizing you. Oh, what about Bohemian Grove? And then you countered them by saying, "Hey, I don't run around in the woods naked." What did that mean?
Here is the before mentioned Washington Times article where he said, "I didn't run around naked like they do."
I don't know what quote you're referring to. I'm not aware of any quote like that. Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
The ceremony, by the way, is where they burn an effigy of a baby in front of a giant owl that represents Molech.
Great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I disrespect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But it's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really?
I'm sorry. You took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put them up after.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understandings. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuinely?
Sir, everything I don't owe you this comment.
I know.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you. And goodbye.
The ritual?
It's none of your damn business.
Oh,
that's right. Listen. You go around and make understandings with people and violate them. You ambush people on the streets, and that's inappropriate form of journalism. If you wish to practice that, that's fine, but don't ask others to respect you for it. If you want to, you can do. You're free American, like anything you want. If you want to be uncivil and rude and ungentlemanly, that's up to you. But don't expect the rest of us to say, "Oh well, you're
there, Mr. Gergen."
I'm sorry, nobody sets policy in there. We try to be gentlemen, and obviously, you don't belong there.
Weaving spiders come out here.
That's another line from the Bohemian Grove. They have a sign that says "Weaving spiders come not here." Anyway, the point of showing all this too is because, this concept of a deep state. I mean, some people define the deep state as like the permanent bureaucratic class in Washington, and that's a part of it. But there's a whole other layer of it, which the Jeffrey Epstein case gets directly into, and that is the realm of elite secret societies and the institutions they have to protect that secrecy that they depend upon. Now, if you understand how like criminal gangs work, the way that they guarantee each other's loyalty is it's sort of a mutually assured destruction system of guilt. They kill people and they know who's killed whom. And so you have as much on them as they've got on you. So you can't no one can rat anything out, of course, the way around that's immunity. But the point being, the way these secret societies operate is through like child sexual abuse, frankly, is one of the biggest things. I mean, there's other ways, but that is one of these systems. And the fact that everybody in the Trump administration, before becoming a part of the Trump administration, made this core promise to release the Epstein files. It wasn't just about releasing the Epstein files. It was about exposing this secret criminal network. And that's why people are so furious about this. But let's back up a little bit, how we got here. Before what happened this week with the Epstein documents, Trump was doing a lot of things that were problematic. We've talked about these things on my show to the disappointment of a number of our listeners. The fact that he campaigned on mass deportations, and then last week he announces, a couple weeks ago now, he announced we're going to have actually mass amnesty. And by the way, the follow-up to that, what they are now apparently going with is they are going to allow mass amnesty. They're just going to lie about it and say it's not amnesty. They're just going to say, well, the farmers, quote unquote farmers, Monsanto and ConAgra, these gigantic pharmaceutical agribusiness companies, they will get to decide who gets to stay. Which last time I checked, stay here forever when you're not here legally is an amnesty. That is what they're doing. So there's amnesty. Trump continues to fund the war in Ukraine. More about that later on the show, by the way. There's some news on that. He promised not to start new wars and then bombs Iran for the sake of Israel. We'll talk more about that soon, too. He broke his promise with Doge to pass a colossal budget bill, which, by the way, why was that budget bill so expensive? A big part of it was this thing called the Golden Dome Project, which is named after the Iron Dome Project, this thing that Israel has. Israel has this interceptor system called the Iron Dome. It's for intercepting rockets. There's actually the systems they have for intercepting like higher level missiles that's not part of the Iron Dome, but whatever. The point is, Trump passes this thing called the Golden Dome Project to protect us from ballistic missile attacks, which, as I've said on previous episodes, is completely, utterly pointless, has absolutely no military benefit for us because we are not under missile attacks. Nobody in the world is shooting missiles at us, not rockets, not Scud missiles. If any foreign country was going to shoot any missiles of any kind at us, they would be nuclear ballistic hypersonic missiles that cannot be intercepted. And so therefore this whole system is completely wasted of time and money. So what's it all about? It's about having missiles to give away to Ukraine and Israel. That's what it's all about. $150 billion, record-breaking budget. We're not solving the fiscal crisis because we're building more weapons to give away to more third countries. And then, of course, this week he also once again endorsed Lindsey Graham on his birthday. Wish Lindsey Graham a happy birthday. How much I love Lindsey Graham. While he's also funding political attacks on Thomas Massie and Rand Paul. And so MAGA was getting pretty fed up. I mean, I would say I'm probably a little bit fussier than some other folks out there. I think, people tend, when they get emotionally invested in something, to shrug off the things that contradict their beliefs. Whereas, I very strongly believe in holding politicians accountable to their promises. And regardless of the fact that, yes, I campaigned for Trump and I supported him. And, the fact that he was doing all these bad things was a reason to criticize him, as I said many times. But this has been a bridge too far. And I'll show you this clip. This is from Tucker Carlson. Hold on, let me pull this clip up here. Where's the clip here? This is from Tucker Carlson at the. Let me bring this screen down so I'm not looking up into space here. At the Turning Point conference just a day or two ago, 2 days ago, I think. And Tucker's making this point about how we still don't have the really big stuff, the things that we really are after. And here's what Tucker says.
If you deny people what they actually want long enough and instead substitute things that you claim they should want, like bombing Iran, I'm not for Iran, where you spend all day telling me that it's so important that, boys not playing girls' soccer teams, whatever. I agree. I hate the tranny stuff passionately. I think you should keep the boys off girls' soccer teams. But I don't know. It kind of feels like you're feeding me appetizers. At some point, I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the U.S. military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the U.S. military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better? Why are my cities disgusting? I don't want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable and create an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life? Can they like get married young, as I did, and like have 4 kids and, take a couple jobs, work hard and all that stuff? But in the end, it's like, fine. Can they do that? Or is that like so remote a possibility that you need to tell me that Iran is the real threat? Take my mind off the fact that you stole all the money and screwed up my country beyond recognition.
Yeah, so Tucker is voicing what I think a lot of us are feeling, that this administration has left much to be desired. And frankly, this Epstein case closed business has been a watershed moment. And there is an actual complete open revolt in MAGA going on now, the likes of which nothing like we've seen up until this week. Something really big really is happening right now. So let's kind of look back, by the way, at this whole Epstein case and realize how we got here. So first there was the fake binders. Remember that? Remember what happened with that? Let me refresh your guys' memory, because I'm sure you probably remember the photo op. But what exactly happened was that all of these, well, several of these MAGA influencers got invited to the White House and said, we're going to give you guys high-level media access to the White House that we're going to actually withhold from the traditional mass media. We're going to wave you guys into the White House. You can ask questions of cabinet secretaries, and CNN's going to have to wait outside. Won't that be great? So then, while they're doing all this, and there's some other event happening, I think Keir Starmer from Britain was in town that day, so there was a time crunch. So Pam Bondi shows up, gives them these binders, which they had printed on the cover. The most transparent administration in American history, But then she tells them, like, by the way, just so you know, like, these just got dropped to my desk. And there's going to be more. Trust me. You're not going to love everything that's in here because there's not much, but there's more coming, folks. I promise. The Southern District of New York's been stonewalling. The FBI's been stonewalling. So they got these binders that they had like no time to read. And then they get put outside the White House because the event's over, and the press takes all these photos, and that's where they're all beaming with these binders because, you know, they're seeing the people in the mass media who got passed over for access so that they could get the access to the White House. So they're so super happy. But then, of course, there's nothing in the binders. Nothing worthwhile, nothing whatsoever. So there was that. Then there was Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who, as we saw in the clips of the cold open, swore up and down that Epstein didn't kill himself, and there's all these evidence, all these lists and everything. This information has to come out. And then, of course, they come out and say, actually, Epstein did kill himself, which nobody believed. Nobody in their right minds, because all the forensic experts said, no, it's impossible. I mean, the fact is, if Epstein had killed himself, that in itself would have been a huge scandal, because this is a high security prison with a high profile prisoner. And like anyone who's been a prisoner can tell you all the ways they prevent you from killing yourself. Somehow none of that worked that day. And then, of course, they ended up putting out this video, which they claimed was raw footage, and actually had all kinds of metadata that said, no, it wasn't. It was edited multiple times, and they just lied about saying it was raw footage. And deleted 10 minutes out of the middle of it for some reason. Then last week, there was this press conference where the reporter asks the key question, the most important question in the entire Epstein scandal. Did Epstein have ties to a foreign intelligence agency? And that was when Trump intervened. In fact, here, I'll show you. This is I think I've got the clip here. Hold on one second. Let me pull up on the screen so you can all see. This is from Glenn Greenwald's show on Rumble, which I do recommend. And here's what they said. Let me find on the spot.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because...
Okay, this is actually after. This is not the right clip, because this is Pam Bondi answering after Trump answers. But it starts with Pam Bondi's about to answer this question, and then Trump goes, "Can I answer that?" And of course, Pam Bondi's like, "Go ahead, Mr. President." Are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? How dare you ask about Jeffrey Epstein? We're doing so many important things with like China and Iran, and you're going to ask something about Jeffrey Epstein? Get real. You want to answer that, Pam? Go ahead and answer the question, Pam. This idiot asking this idiot question. That was how Trump reacted to this question, to this critical question. And then when it finally does come back to Pam Bondi, her answer is, "I have no idea. I don't know." We'll look at the credibility of that claim in a moment or two here. But then, of course, came the meltdown. One other thing was, of course, then the administration announces, we are not going to do any more investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. None. Case closed. Done. And that was when the whole MAGA movement melted down. That was when they're like, you know what? This is too much. We can't even stomach this. And then here's what Trump posted on Truth Social. I'm sure you guys have all seen this one before, but it's worth, I can't make it bigger, but it's worth reading and repeating and going through, because this is not normal Trump at all, folks. This is a very different, very upset Donald Trump. You don't usually see a wall of text from him. He took some time to write all this out. He is mad. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration. I beg to differ. The talk of the world and quote unquote selfish people are trying to hurt it all over. Notice these Trump is great at using psychological tactics here. Selfish people. I'm selfish. I'm a selfish person for talking about this. Believe me, folks, I'd have a much more popular podcast if I was constantly shilling for Trump and telling people what they want to hear, not the opposite, telling people what they don't want to hear. Over a guy who never dies. That's a funny way to put it. Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? Again, this is a very clever psychological technique, which also did not work at all, which is to try to claim that the the Epstein stuff and Russiagate are all the same thing. It's all the same thing, all the same line. Ridiculous, especially because Bill and Hillary Clinton are actually in the Epstein files. They took many trips to the Epstein Island, which should come as no surprise to any of you if you know about their escapades in Haiti, but that's a tale for another time. But that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to say anyone that's still concerned about Epstein must be some kind of secret Democrat agent trying to revive Russiagate. That's the play he's making here. They created the Epstein files. It's complete utter bullshit. No evidence of this whatsoever. Just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? Because it implicated them too. This is another tactic you see them using all the time. Like I've seen, you'll see people all like, remember when Elon said Trump's in the Epstein files? And now here's how I can prove that's wrong. With logic, they would say, if Trump was in the Epstein files, Democrats would have released them. Because why wouldn't they? And there's a good answer to that, folks. Like, just because someone has what seems logical is not, I mean, first of all, it's not evidence. It's just, it's actually a form of deception. When you say, why would I do this? How could I do that? It wouldn't make sense for me to do this. That might be true, but it's often a tactic to lead people down the wrong way. There's an easy reason why it wouldn't be. Remember that guy we just saw? That guy that goes to the Bohemian Grove where men run around naked and worship Satan? He was an advisor to Democrat and Republican presidents because the deep state at its core, deepest level, is bipartisan. That's why the Democrats wouldn't release the list even if Trump was on it, because it implicates their people too. Because if you're implicating Trump over the Epstein stuff, you got to implicate Bill Clinton too. And some others, which we'll look at when we look at the list. So where were we? They haven't even given up on the JFK or Martin Luther King files. No, we shouldn't. And by the way, I know he says he's released them all. We don't believe you. Or maybe Trump doesn't know better. But do you honestly think that the government didn't destroy some records? No matter how much success we've had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. We were about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. We have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. The left may be imploding, and let's hope so, but nonetheless. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals. Instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. This is what Trump is talking about. Thousands of child sexual abuse victims and sex traffickers and elites who rape children. Billionaires who rape children. That's who Trump is protecting. That's who Trump is saying, don't pay any attention to. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they try to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she's looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest anywhere in the world. Yeah, we'll see. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, someone that nobody cares about. Thank you. And this weird closing he's got now all the time. He says, thank you for your attention to this matter. I don't get why he thinks that's clever or cool or anything. But that was Trump's meltdown on X, or on Truth Social. And the comments section. Oh my God. I don't think I've got it handy here, but I did retweet someone that grabbed some screenshots of the comment section, and people just absolutely melting down to the point where he almost got ratioed on the platform that he owns. The platform that he owns that consists entirely of Trump supporters, and he was getting ratioed for that post. And I think we're at a point where we might actually see Trump start to realize that he can't just continue to ignore his base forever. But we have to keep the pressure up. We'll talk more about that, I think, maybe at the end. But I think the important thing, though, first off, well, I mean, the other thing too is what exactly was in the Epstein files and what all this means. But I actually got one more thing I wanted to show too. This is CNN. Trump is daring MAGA to oppose him right now. This came out before Trump's tweet. There is a reckoning coming. Here's another clip. This is from Tucker Carlson again. By the way, you should watch his whole Turning Point speech. It was great. But this was him talking to Sagar Enjeti is his name. And here we go.
Alone. And I do think, as someone who voted for the president, campaigned for the president a lot, I'm not attacking the president, but I think even people who are fully on board with, the bulk of the MAGA agenda are like, this is too much. Actually,
yes.
I'm saying that with love, and I hope that they're listening, because I think this threatens to blow up the whole thing. But let's just back up a little bit and just pick at some of the inconsistencies here. So you're saying that Pam Bondi said on camera, we have a client list.
On the White House lawn.
I've seen the client list.
Yes.
And then yesterday she's saying there's no client list.
There's no client list. And there was no systematic blackmail. That actually might be the most preposterous line in the document.
So anyway, the point being, as Tucker says, MAGA can't stomach this. This is just too much. So it begs the question, because Trump surely knows this is important to a lot of people. He has to know this now. But you know what? I'll bet you dollars for donuts he won't reverse. And the reason why is the real implications of what's actually going on here. So I don't have the clip queued up, but in that same interview that Tucker did, you should watch that whole thing too. Tucker with Sagar and Jetty. Sagar makes the point that the real signal with all of this is to the co-conspirators that they're safe. The Epstein list is out, folks. In fact, here, I'll just put it on the screen. This is the Epstein list, or a big part of it. Can I make this bigger? I can make this bigger. The way this list was composed by Ryan Dawson, who runs a website called antineocons.com. And the way he compiled this is by going through all the court transcripts. And it turns out, if you Google like almost any of these people, you'll find all kinds of stories of their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Les Wexner, the financial operative, Jean-Luc Brunel, who there was a clip of this guy in the bottom left. There is a clip of just posted on X an hour or so ago of an interview with it was a deposition of none other than Jeffrey Epstein, where they ask him in this lawsuit. So this guy Jean-Luc Brunel, he transported a bunch of underage prostitutes from France to do one of your sex capades for, I think it was your birthday. And they're asking him about this, like in the deposition. So the evidence is out there. If you guys want to go down this rabbit hole further, you can go to Ryan Dawson's website. There's also posted on sonar21.com, which is former CIA operative Larry Johnson's website. But if you look at the list here, you can kind of see why they don't want this to go anywhere, because there are heads of state on this list, including 4 Israeli heads of state. And of course, as Tucker Carlson and many others have been pointing out, the connections to Israel and Mossad are everywhere between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was Robert Maxwell, who worked for the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service. So this is the thing. Again, it's not about the list. It's about there being no prosecutions, that this is Epstein's dead, Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison, but the people that were paying for the child sex predators, people who are paying for the child sex who are predators, are these globalist elites. Billionaires, many of them. Can you imagine why Trump doesn't have an appetite for prosecuting any of these people? Any of these billionaires? People that really do have huge sway over government. But most of all, and I think it's time now to confront this dang reality and not beat around the bush anymore. It's all about Israel. This administration is all about Israel. You saw that interview with Tucker Carlson with Ted Cruz. Why are you so obsessed with Israel, Tucker? As everything Congress and the president and the White House are doing is for Israel. All they do, all the time. Look at this clip. Netanyahu said to bring suitcases of laundry from Israel to wash at the White House. I happened to pull up this story because I was looking for, but then just happened to see in the sidebar, Trump says he hopes to get Gaza ceasefire straightened out over the next week. All they're thinking about is Israel. All the time. All the flipping time. This just happened this past week. More. IRS says churches can endorse candidates from the pulpit. Why is that a thing? Because Candace Owens just did a whole episode where she identified these Israeli organizations who were paying pastors to attack her and Tucker Carlson. Well, now they can endorse candidates that Israel can pay them to endorse. Netanyahu was at the White House this week. This week, his third visit. To do what exactly? To give out performance reviews for the Trump administration and to lobby them to go to war against Iran. Duh. And of course, they ordered Pam Bondi to shut down the Epstein investigation. That was the question the reporter asked her. Remember? Is Epstein connected to foreign intelligence services? The prosecutor in the Epstein case, Alex Acosta, when they sentenced Epstein, this is the first Epstein prosecution, he gets a slap on the wrist. A reporter asked Alex Acosta why. He's like, they told us because he's intelligence. Because he's intelligence. Let's face the facts, folks. This entire Trump administration, and Congress too, by the way. Remember when Mike Johnson became House Speaker? The very first thing he gets up and says is, we're going to help Israel. This entire Trump administration are Israel firsters. Every last one of them. It's not just Mike Huckabee. The Grayson did a whole report on how Marco Rubio was put there by Miriam Adelson. I'm sorry, they did a report on how John Radcliffe is Israel's stenographer. There's like a billion articles on my Twitter feed right now, just from all the reporting that's come out about this in just the past week or so. But this is what's happening. Benjamin Netanyahu is the true president of the United States of America, and Trump does his bidding. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is the way it's been going. There was some hope in the beginning of the administration that maybe things were going to be different. Trump's second term, doesn't have to worry about being reelected. Wanted to have a ceasefire before he got sworn in. That's long gone, by the way. Today, Israel dropped a bomb on 6 children, killing them all, at a water receiving station. Every single day, this country murders children. But every single member of the Trump administration has been screened for their loyalty to Israel. Remember when Tulsi Gabbard picked Daniel Davis to be her deputy director of national intelligence, and Congress said, nope, he's criticized Israel before. All of these people worship Israel. You can find clips of Pete Hegseth saying Israel is the Holy Land. And I mean, all of them are like this. All of them. Every last one of them. You can find clips of Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. One of those two, I forget which one it was. One of them is dating a former member of the Israel Defense Force who's 20 years younger than him. Maybe both of them, for all I know. And this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Because, mark my words, they are demanding war with Iran. The evidence has now become clear. We did not destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities at all. All we did was get the IAEA kicked out of the country, so now we don't know what they're doing. You can guarantee that Israel is going to demand we go to war with Iran for them. And they will do it. Trump will do it. So that's what's happening, folks. And it's time to face reality. This administration is beyond compromised. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of the state of Israel, the genocidal terrorist state of Israel. That's where things are. So, what else has happened this week? Trump has imposed more tariffs. Great. Tariffs on whole countries. Which, by the way, that's obviously an emergency power because we're in an economic emergency of a trade deficit. How's that emergency? Who knows? But the funny thing is, we also tariffed Brazil, a country for whom, one of the few countries we don't have a trade deficit with, we have an $8 billion trade surplus with. And B, Trump just says in his letter, I'm doing this to you because of your persecution of Jair Bolsonaro, which I'm opposed to the persecution of Jair Bolsonaro. None of our business. But Trump has expressly stated that these are illegal sanctions that we don't have the power to make. And here's the thing. Trump is announcing probably tomorrow, because the other president of the United States, Lindsey Graham, is announcing we're going to be passing bone-crushing sanctions against Russia, which will not actually be against Russia. They'll be against any country that trades with Russia. And this bill that they've been talking about it's been morphing. It is now a bill that's going, because Trump has come out and said, the only way I'm going to sign this is if it gives me total power to impose and revoke tariffs at my whim, as I see fit. So Congress is going to pass legislation to what will inevitably be permanent, to permanently delegate a taxing power, a trade power to the White House. And what's happening now is economic policy is being merged with our foreign policy. They'll be the same thing, which is, Trump got this whole idea from tariffs from President McKinley, like back in the more than a century ago. And back then, there was a lot of scholarship about tariffs, and a lot of economists debated tariffs. And they said the whole idea of tariffs, it has to be done in such a way as to protect critical American industries and interests, not by country, but by industry. So, okay, you want to protect the car industry, so you sanction foreign vehicles. You tariff foreign vehicles from coming in. Things like you don't want to have our pharmaceutical industry controlled by China, so you tariff countries that the pharmaceutical countries don't leave. What you don't do is, what you never do is use tariffs as an instrument of foreign policy, because all you're going to do is burn relationships with foreign countries. And they said we should never do that. Well, that's what Trump is now doing to everybody in the world. 30% tariffs on the EU, 40% tariffs on East Asia, 50% tariffs on Brazil, 500% tariffs on China. We'll see how this all goes. So that was the big story this week. What else has happened? Oh, there was, here, let me put this video up. You guys may have seen this one. This was a brilliant piece of PR from our 100% American loyal defense secretary, Pete Hegseth. You guys seen this one?
You know what? We know why we were put here. We were brought here to rebuild the military, match capabilities to the threats of today. So while our adversaries have produced millions of cheap drones, before us, we were mired in bureaucratic red tape. Not anymore. In June, President Trump issued an executive order unleashing American drone dominance to bolster our drone industry and arm our warfighters, because that's what we're all about. So today, I'm rescinding restrictive policies that stifle production, and this will unleash American manufacturing and the ingenuity of our warfighters by doing three key things. First, we're going to bolster the U.S. drone manufacturing base by producing thousands of American-made products, prioritizing Buy American. We'll arm combat units with a variety of low-cost, American-crafted drones, leveraging our world-leading engineers and AI experts. And third, we're going to train as we expect to fight. Senior officers, well, I'll grab this. It's the memo. Senior officers must overcome bureaucratic risk aversion in budgeting, weaponeering, and training. So here's the memo.
Weaponing and
today, delivered via drones here on the front lawn of the Pentagon, with some of our great warfighters flying them. This is the future. We're in the fight. We're in the fight to win it. I'm never going to back down.
Cringy. I see probably a couple hundred battlefield reports every day from Russia and Ukraine. And those weren't some very good drone operating skills, that's for sure. Because those drones, man, I've seen drones that will fly into buildings through narrow window openings Drones that have to hit turrets like spot on. This one you got Hank trying to reach that drone up there. Man, now don't get me wrong. Yes, obviously drones are becoming a big thing, and we are way, 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 way behind because the military-industrial complex didn't want to make cheap, easy drones. They want to make big, fancy, expensive drones. And turns out the cheap and easy drones are the ones that are really turning the tide on the battlefield. Steph Jacobson says, I just want to know who has 6 passports. Yeah, it's it's amazing to me that there even is this concept of dual loyalty, dual citizenship. Like you can be a citizen of one country and also another country, and still serve in Congress. Even you can serve in the Israeli military and still serve in Congress. You'd think the voters wouldn't put up with that, but they do. Todd Gimlin says that's a little harsh on the genocide call. No, it's not. Is it a genocide if there ever was one? The mission of the state of Israel is to slaughter every man, woman, and child in Gaza until they have no choice but to leave or die. That is what their objective is, and they're carrying it out. And in fact, the International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice, is even pursuing genocide charges. Yeah, that is what is happening. Compared to like the war in Russia or the war in Russia and Ukraine, where the overall casualty numbers are way higher, but they're targeting military targets. Todd Gimlin says, who started on October 7th? What started on October 7th? The Israeli blockade went back to 2008. People in Gaza have lived in an occupied concentration camp their entire lives. Many of them, hundreds of thousands of them, maybe millions even. I think millions. But anyway, we don't need to get into a debate about this right now. The important thing is that was what that whole America First thing was supposed to be all about. Is we don't put foreign interests like the Europeans or Ukraine or Israel or anybody above the interests of the United States of America. And what's happening is we are turning into a global pariah because all we are doing is, and what Trump is essentially doing is trying desperately to continue this American empire policy, not realizing it's too late. It's too late. We are trying to bully the world back into submission. And the Chinese economy is too big. The Russian military is too big. The countries are too well organized. They're getting together. They're fleeing from the dollar. And Trump's trade sanctions and the tariffs, all they're going to do is get the countries to more desperately not depend on America. What do you think Vietnam's thinking? Or India? These countries that spent decades trying to be friends with us, and then Trump slaps them with 30% tariffs. And they're thinking, man, we got to diversify our portfolio. We can't rely on the United States because nobody can trust them. And unfortunately for Trump, he is caught in this globalist bear trap. He has filled his administration with people that support Israel above the United States. He has committed himself to war against Russia. We'll see more about that tomorrow, apparently. A war he can no longer. He had every off-ramp. He had every opportunity to walk away from Ukraine, and now he can't. And he is now firmly in the bear trap set by Lindsey Graham and the neocons. And when Russia storms into Kiev and Trump gets blamed for it, Lindsey Graham's going to turn around and say, you should have given them more. You should have given them more. You didn't give them enough. And all of the Biden administration regime officials are going to walk away scot-free. Trump will get all the blame. The neocons will throw him under the bus. And the only people who would have had Trump's back was us, was his base. And now Trump is daring us to walk away. Because at the end of the day, he is breaking his campaign promises to us. He's not prosecuting all the Epstein people because he's protecting the Israelis. He's not kicking out all these illegal alien laborers or prosecuting the big agribusiness farms that employ them. He's protecting the farm businesses and keeping us at amnesty. He's not cutting the size of government. He's actually, if you look at the things Trump has done that we were happy about and look at them in a new light, they're not as big wins as we thought they were. Oh, Trump is laying off lots of people at the State Department. Great. Who's going to replace them? They're going to be Israel firsters. Same thing in the CIA. Same thing in the NSA. Yeah, he's removing the Democrat operatives. That's all well and good, I think. But we'll see what happens, folks. There's a saying in politics, winning the week. Winning the week. Trump did not win this week. In fact, I think, has been his worst week yet. And depending on what his announcement is with respect to Russia tomorrow, next week might be even worse. I'm getting pretty tired of it. So what can we do, if anything? There is a saying in politics, unless you are feared, you are not respected. Trump does not fear the wrath of losing his base. Trump believes, in fact, the way he said it in 2016 was, I could shoot a man on Fifth Avenue and they would still support me. Maybe he's getting the message that things are not going so well. I hope he's getting that message. But we should be speaking out more and more and more until the behavior changes. Maybe it will. Maybe we'll get to that pitch, because ordinarily Republicans really do not like the idea of losing elections. They really don't. And if the Democrats take back either the House or the Senate, it will be a lot less of a happy administration. That's for sure. But and maybe Elon Musk's America Party can bring that leverage. There's still hope. Although I don't know that Elon Musk is not an Israel firster himself. Who knows? But he certainly at least cares about the budget. And, John C. King says there were alleged victims that testified. Yeah, if people want to look, there's lots and lots of Epstein documents out there. I'll put this back on the screen again. Notice Ryan Dawson says, this is page 1. There are multiple pages. He sells shirts with the Epstein list and like maps of their connections linked all together. The information's out there, folks. Yeah, Google Les Wexner. See what that turns up for you. Reid Hoffman. Sergey Brin. Why am I not surprised? Is the CEO of Google, I believe it is. Yeah. This is the thing that, above all else, when Trump says he wanted to drain the swamp, that is the deepest, darkest, dirtiest part of the swamp there is the Epstein clients. And their ties to intelligence, American and Israeli. And for Trump to say, I'm not going to investigate this anymore, in fact, I'm going to put the kibosh on it, we're not going to investigate anybody, is the most core promise Trump has broken yet in a long string of promises. And the only way this changes is if Trump supporters at every opportunity amplify their outrage and do not let this go. As Dan Bongino advised us in the opening clip, do not let this go. Because if we let this go, there won't be any cleaning up the drugs off America's streets. It's going to be about Israel and Iran and Russia and Ukraine and China. By the way, speaking of that, another America First moment here. U.S. demands clarity from allies on their role in potential war over Taiwan. Financial Times reports. Oh, goody. Yeah. America first. America first. They have a world war with China. That'll be great. What Trump could have done instead was, focus on America, make made peace with the world, instead of going the tariff route, just cut the size of government. That's how you fund the government. Cut the size of the government. You know, focus on kicking out all the illegals, harshly punishing violent criminals and drug offenders. And, you know, we might end up with a multipolar world. Marco Rubio himself said it's too late. We're going to become a multipolar world. And we have a seat at that table, not make enemies of the entire freaking planet. But Trump, at the end of the day, has proven himself to be just another neocon. And the news gets worse and worse with every passing week. And I, for one, am sick of it. So with that, folks, I'm going to call it a stream. We'll talk to you soon. Until then, and by the way, folks, I don't want to say don't get involved, don't do things, don't drop out, don't quit. I'm going to be working my Republican booth at the Arbor Art Fair, trying to get names on a list, trying to get new members, trying to get more people organized. Because yes, I really do hate the radical left. I really do hate the Democrats. I don't want to see them succeed. I don't want to see another Democrat governor in Michigan or attorney general or secretary of state or state representative or state senator. I have all of those things, unfortunately. I don't like them. I want to defeat them. All right, guys, I'll do it for us for tonight. Until next time, peace.